Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce. This is a Ukraine War news update, second part thereof for the 26th of January 2024. Let's start with the military assistance and equipment section. Germany, again, coming up trumps at the moment with their approach to helping Ukraine. German Minister of Defense Pistorius has announced the following planned support from Germany for Ukraine for 2024. Iris-T SLM air defense systems, those are the medium range air defense systems that are very good. Geopol anti-air guns, so self-propelled anti-aircraft guns, those auto cannons on a tracked base, additional artillery systems with more than 230,000 rounds of ammunition, 80 plus Leopard 1A5 tanks, and those are, I think, these are ones that have been possibly placed before, that we know they're coming, they just need to be upgraded and actually, finished and whatnot. Additional APCs, additional engineering machines and bridge layers, 450 armoured vehicles. Going to be interesting to see what that entails. I look forward to hearing from German aid for Ukraine at some point with regard to clarity here. Mine clearance systems, drones and radar systems and recon systems. So this is really good news. Germany really is at the center of aid to Ukraine. In fact, talking about German aid to Ukraine, here is his latest piece on Rheinmetall. So new ammunition factory and framework contract for artillery ammunition is in the planning. Germany's Minister of Defense, again, Pistorius, had an interview with Bild, the German tabloid newspaper. According to Pistorius, talking about production supply of artillery ammunition, it's currently being worked on with Rheinmetall because the German arms manufacturer is building a new ammunition factory for artillery ammunition at very short notice. He did not provide any further details such as a timeline, possible scale of production, or where the production would take place. However, it's likely the possible factory is in Lithuania. According to the Baltic Times, as Azrin Armonaite, the Lithuanian Minister for Economy and Innovation, also reported yesterday that they are in, quote, very detailed talks with Rheinmetall about the construction of a factory inside Lithuania. Although she did not reveal any details either, it would probably be a coincidence of cosmic proportions if they were not talking about the same factory. Rheinmetall has also increased its production capacity by expanding existing production lines and plans to produce up to 700,000 155mm artillery shells by the end of the year. In 2022, the capacity was still around 80,000. So that's almost a tenfold increase in 155mm artillery shell production. Incredible. Rheinmetall also wanted to build a new powder factory. It's not just about the shells, it's about the stuff that goes into the shells, on a former military airfield in Grossenhain, a project that allegedly failed for political reasons. Instead, the company now wants to expand its existing site in the Bavarian municipality of Aschau am Inn. Nevertheless, this will also lead to an increase in production capacity. So Germany playing that pivotal role in support for Ukraine. Now, German aid to Ukraine has said that he needs to do a corrective, and that's due to some of the things that were maybe misleadingly released, or the translation wasn't quite there. Basically, it was to do with, if you are following along, Germany supposedly being in charge of leading the armor coalition, and Latvia leading the drone coalition that Germany would be a part of. But it is apparent that now that it is actually a case that they are considering participating in the armored fighting vehicles and drones capability coalitions. So it doesn't mean that they're leading or definitely in them. So just a bit of a corrective there that he wanted to set out. Nonetheless, Germany are still playing incredibly important roles across all of these different organizations and in helping Ukraine. Tatarigami here saying actually, no, that needs to come later. What's that doing there? We'll come back to that. France has sent 2 additional M270 LRUs. These are actually, that's the wrong picture really for that. These are multiple launch rocket systems that are similar to HIMARS to Ukraine as part of the artillery coalition. The LRU is a modernized version of the American M270, equipped with a new firing control system and able to fire new types of guided rockets. France has now sent 4 of those in total. Sweden has sent over 1,100 tons of aid to Ukraine's energy sector. Sweden has already provided Ukraine with 1,108 metric tons of energy equipment since the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion. Really good news. And Great Britain and Sweden have joined a drone coalition for Ukraine. Talking about that as we were earlier. A coalition of drones and electronic warfare was created by Ukraine and Latvia. The decision was made during the visit of Latvian Defence Minister Andris Spruds to Kiev. Now, the UK announced as part of their big £2.5 billion assistance package to Ukraine. I think 200 million of that was about drones, so that will fit in with this coalition very squarely. This is a Russian drone, imagery of a Russian drone taking off with an ATGM, anti-tank guided missile unit, a Fagot on the back, and yeah, as you can see, it's a bit shaky when it gets in the air, but it's there, and it can do its thing. Taking off, I presume it's a bit shaky there, but once it stabilizes, I presume that would be of use. There, it's firing. Again, nothing that we wouldn't have expected, given the evolution of these pieces of kit. If Hungary blocks the agreement... Now, before we get onto that, I want to then go back to this. So this is Frontline Intelligence Insight tracked logistical routes between Russia and North Korea, calculated delivery numbers and identified storage points. We are disclosing North Korea's ammo transport ecosystem and revealing some of the crucial nodes for the first time. So Frontline Intelligence Insight has estimated the number of ammunition deliveries between September and December to be approximately 1.57 million artillery shells, combining 152mm and 122mm ammunition. Evidence from recent imagery since October 2023, 20-foot shipping containers filled with ammunition are loaded onto sea vessels at Ryazan port at Rason and shipped to Dunai port near Vladivostok in Russia's far east. And I have detailed that previously when there was lots of satellite imagery coming out, but this is kind of building on that and saying, it's continuing. Ammo shipments from North Korea in 2024 are observed in January imagery. Containers offloaded at Dunai port are transported by trucks to the port's railroad branch. Russians then load these containers onto trains for transportation across Russia to locations near Ukraine. Upon arrival in Russia, the artillery ammo in containers is directed to at least 3 identified locations where Russians store and distribute it. Tikhoretsk ammunition storage, Mozdok ammunition storage, and Yergolyaskaya airfield. The Tikhoretsk ammo depot in Rostov Oblast, that's close to the Ukrainian border in the southeast of Ukraine, serves as a consistent artillery ammo storage during the war. Our satellite imagery from mid-August 2023 shows Russians preparing revetments for storage, with documented arrivals of 20-foot cargo containers in September. So these are being dug in just in case they do get hit. And you would think this would be a prime spot to hit if they had the range on missiles. Certainly could be hit by drones at the moment. Unlike the Tikhoretsk ammo depot, Mozdok is over 600 kilometers away from the Ukrainian border, making immediate delivery of ammo to the front lines unlikely. It might potentially function as storage for ballistic missiles used against Ukraine on December the 30th and January the 2nd. Frontline intelligence team has analysed satellite imagery of the area, determining that the initial shipments arrived in Mozdok in early October 2023. Like the Tikhoretsk ammo depot, containers are transported via trains and subsequently unloaded near the ammunition site. Yergolyiskaya airfield, a small rural town in Rostov Oblast, again fairly close to Ukraine, about 90 kilometers from the Tikhoretsk ammo depot, discreetly serves as an additional ammunition storage site. Unlike other known locations, it has no previous associations with ammo storage. By October, objects resembling crates and containers began to appear in the area. The timeline, discrete location near the railroad, and the appearance of objects resembling containers in revetments strongly indicate that this location is likely associated with ammo logistics. And after arriving in the designated locations, the ammunition is transported using civilian and military trucks. The destination includes specific military units and temporary makeshift ammo dumps approximately halfway to the intended unit. Given that Russia produced approximately 2 million artillery rounds in 2023 and received approximately 1.57 million rounds from North Korea, it's likely that Russia will continue to increase its domestic production while covering current needs through foreign deliveries. While these numbers may not enable Russia to use artillery as extensively as in 2023, 2022, they still provide Russia with an artillery firepower advantage when considering the Ukrainian ammo situation. So this is a problem for Russia. They don't have the production or procurement capacities that they need to prosecute the war in the way that they have been doing. But the same can be said, of course, of Ukraine as well. And the ultimate question is, going forward, who will be able to produce more? Will it be Russia with Iran, North Korea, and perhaps with China helping in insidious ways, maybe with the raw materials for some of those things? I don't know. Will that axis be able to manufacture more artillery shells than all of the allies supporting Ukraine? Of course, it depends a lot on where the US is positioned here. But also, it's not just on who can outproduce the other, but actually, if you're using 2022 as a benchmark, and you can see that Ukraine still prevailed or were able to push the Russians back in 2022 or in 2023 as well to some degree, and you're thinking, and they had that ratio disparity between the Russian stocks and the Ukrainian stocks. If the production now shifts it like this, so even if Ukraine can't outproduce Russia and its allies, if it can get closer than it did for, say, 2022, and they achieved all that in 2022 and 2023, then actually going forward, that is a vast improvement of where they previously were. So even that's not like wholly depressing for Ukraine, even if they still get outproduced. Really, I think fascinating stuff there. Right now, we are going to get on to sort of US production via EU. So if Hungary blocks the agreement of the 50 billion euro package for Ukraine, which is something that looks less likely. So it looks like Viktor Orban is going to toe the party line. It looks like Slovakia is very much toeing the party line. And there's, I think, been a lot of threats, possibly, of funding. We've also got some interesting stuff on there's some massive protests still ongoing in Slovakia against the pro-Russian government of Robert Fico. And I think he might be looking at that and going, maybe if I go too hard in with this Viktor Orban Putin axis, then I'm going to lose some serious political capital. So we've seen Robert Fico say, yeah, okay, I'm not going to be against Ukraine acceding to the EU, and I'm not going to be against this money going to Ukraine from the EU. And in fact, you can also buy whatever you want off my industries, because I need to be, economically, financially buoyant as a government, as an administration. I want to be in charge of that. So that's good news for Ukraine. But Viktor Orban wasn't looking like he's going to get in the way of NATO, of Sweden acceding to NATO. What's going to go on with this $50 billion package? And then there's been all these different negotiations going on, and will he be able to have a veto maybe a year down the line, etc., all that kind of stuff. But even if he does say no, then apparently using Article 7, which is this mechanism to strip Hungary of its voting rights, has become a real option. 5 European officials and diplomats said other countries are ready to make such a move. So with that kind of threat hanging over Viktor Orban and Hungary, he's going to be in a position where he could really screw over his own country, and then that could result in some political backlash for him in Hungary. So interesting times ahead, and it could be that it's just too problematic for Orban to adhere to what Putin wants, and it could be that Europe gets itself in line and starts having a bit more unity going forward. Now, the Pentagon is urging Congress in the US to approve funding requests, the Ukraine funding requests. Pentagon, obviously, Department of Defense, realizes how bloody important this is and asserts the global significance of such support. The concern from the Pentagon apparently centers on Russia's alliances with countries like Iran and North Korea. So going back to that axis of throwing China on that, China, Iran, North Korea, Russia, Pentagon, like the whole raison d'etre essentially is to work against that power structure, to maintain the US on top of the military strategic hegemony in the world, right? And Congress is stopping that from happening. So Pentagon is going to be tearing its hair out at the moment. Right, I'm now going to go on to US politics as it pertains to this funding deal for both for Ukraine and the border, and with stuff that's come out in the last 24 hours. So I'm going to sort of revisit stuff, but actually there's a load of new data to consider. And again, there are people that are going to react, oh my goodness, again to this. It's the nature of the beast. American politics is divisive, but this is massively important. So just as one example of a media outlet that's reported on this yesterday, Republicans got an immigration deal, but now they don't want to give Biden a win. So, okay, before I give you my opinion. So Tillis, this is North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis, said that's like parallel universe shit. That didn't happen. He was referring to a report on Wednesday night from Punchbowl News that Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell was backing away from a deal for enhanced border security with additional aid for Ukraine. The final product of those negotiations has supposedly been coming any minute now for about a week. Mitch McConnell, the Senate's GOP's most steadfast supporter of funding for Ukraine's defense against Russia, has been pushing the effort. What threw Tillis and other McConnell allies into a fit about the reporting wasn't just the idea that McConnell had turned, but they had done so out of deference to Donald Trump. According to Punchbowl's reporting, McConnell, during a Republican conference lunch on Wednesday, said that, quote, politics on this have changed, and noted that Trump, whom he referred to as the nominee, so, forgetting that Haley even exists, is campaigning on fixing a broken border. We don't want to do anything to undermine him, McConnell reportedly said. This is massively important because it is essentially saying that Trump supposedly doesn't want a deal on the border, and I don't want to undermine Trump, and so therefore I'm going to possibly walk away from a deal on the border, which means also walk away from a deal on Ukraine aid. McConnell's office didn't say anything to deny the reporting, but other GOP senators suggested his comments had been misinterpreted. He wasn't throwing in a towel on the deal, which led Senators James Lankford and Chris Murphy and Kristen Sinema say they're putting the finishing touches on. And he wasn't bowing out to Trump, who has been hectoring senators and House members to reject anything short of perfect. We'll come back to that. This is hugely important. What Republicans didn't say, though, was that McConnell had explained how difficult the politics of the situation had become, and no one would contradict him on that. Lankford, the Paul Sol tracked with negotiating the deal for Republicans, referred to McConnell's remarks at the meeting as an, quote, elephant in the room conversation, as in everybody in the room knows this. So McConnell was just saying it out loud. The package, so, okay, and we'll come on to J.D. Vance. Let's say that now. J.D. Vance says he's a Republican senator from Ohio, is going to cause a lot of problems politically. Vance told reporters on Thursday. On the flip side, of course, all of us want to secure the border. We might have disagreements about how to get there. So I think Vance said of McConnell, he's just acknowledging the quandary. The package has split Senate Republicans between the old guard and MAGA factions. And another rule that's especially pertinent in election years is that you don't want to pursue issues that split your members. So you've got to keep unified, but the biggest thing is don't give Biden a win. And this is the main thing that's going on here. Anyway, to continue with this article, it quotes, if he's going to get any money to Ukraine, which he's for, he's going to have to get the border done. Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville said of McConnell's situation. Let's concentrate on the little things here. Tommy Tuberville has said something here which tells you exactly what Tuberville thinks himself without telling you. Read between the lines. This is inference and deduction. So if he's going to get any money to Ukraine, which he's for, by extension suggests that Tuberville doesn't want to get money to Ukraine and he's not for it. It's really important. I would never say, well, look, if he wants to do that, which he's for, he's up for that. I'm automatically suggesting that's not what I want. Alabama Senator Tuberville said of McConnell's situation, when a reporter asked Langford on Thursday, so he's the Republican negotiator, whether there was a viable path for Ukraine aid without a border deal, Langford said simply no. So one of the options is that McConnell might seek to decouple Ukraine aid from the border. But the Republicans, the MAGA Republicans, are unlikely to do that because they realize that that's their leverage, right? But if you're going to get aid to Ukraine, it's got to be decoupled from the border bill, because no border deal will be done. It just won't be done. And this is what we'll come on to. Chris Murphy, the top Senate Democrat in the border negotiations, said Thursday that Senate Republicans would not decide in the next 24 hours as to whether they actually want to get something done, or whether they would need to decide this, or whether they want to keep the border a mess for political reasons. That's the key. Quote, Republicans have made it very clear they aren't willing to support Ukraine aid without a border package, Murphy said. We have negotiated a border policy package. We did what Republicans asked us to do, and now they seem to be having a hard time actually closing the deal. So the situation is, from the way I understand it, and I know there'll be some pro-Trumpists out there who'll be saying, no, the Democrats haven't. It's the Democrats' fault. They're not doing a deal. Apparently, from the way I understand it, is the Democrats have given the Republicans what they were asking for in the negotiations, and now the Republicans are going, yeah, no, that's not enough, because Trump said it has to be a perfect deal. It means it has to be exactly like a set of hoops that you just can't jump through. And unless we get that, you ain't getting Ukraine money. And so it's like, so you're not really wanting to do a deal here. So, quote, what is very scary to some Republicans, he continued, is that the deal we have reached will actually fix a big part of the problem. And I know for Donald Trump and some Republicans, it's not in their best interest for there to be policy changes that actually fix the broken asylum system, to give the president new tools to better manage the border. So what is going on here? The reality is this. The Republicans do not want the border to be solved. It's that simple. They don't want the border to be solved, because if they do, there's two reasons. One, it means that Biden has achieved something. So they don't want to give Biden something that he can then go back to the country and say, look what we have achieved under my administration, that then will leave Biden in a better position to be re-elected, because he's like, look, we've succeeded. Second, and it's linked to that, is that if a solution to the border is found now before November, then the Republicans will have nothing to campaign on, because their main campaign issue at the moment is the border. So if Biden's administration, or if there's bipartisan support for a border reform policy, then the Republicans have got nothing. They've already repealed Roe v. Wade as a SCOTUS ruling, as a Supreme Court ruling. So they can't go on abortion and Roe v. Wade, because they've already achieved that. And if immigration then gets sorted out before November, then that's been achieved. They can't campaign on that. They have to go back to trans toilets and the war on Christmas or something. So this is really bad for Ukraine, because the Republicans are not going to want to do that deal. Trump's hardline, this is a Wall Street Journal. So this is a right-leaning Murdoch paper saying Trump's hardline border stance endangers funding for Ukraine, and talks about exactly this. And the problem is what Trump has said publicly on social media. So this isn't like me coming up with some interpretation of affairs here. Trump has literally said we need a strong, powerful, and essentially perfect, all caps, perfect border. And unless we get that, we are better off not making a deal, Trump said on social media on Thursday. This is just a huge problem. It's like, okay, right, yeah, we've done a deal, but that deal is short of being the absolute perfection that me as Donald Trump wants, and so therefore it ain't going to happen, because I control what these senators and Congress people do. The Euromaidan Press reports that Trump's opposition to the border deal, which Republicans demanded to fund Ukraine, is complicated. Its future is complicated, according to Mitch McConnell. Earlier, Trump said that as president, he would be able to resolve Ukraine in one day. So this is how, say, Midas Touch report this.
They don't want to see that right there. Also, this is new from Jake Sherman on the Hill, talking about how Mitch McConnell told a closed meeting of the Senate Republicans Wednesday that the politics of the border now has flipped for Republicans and cast doubt on linking Ukraine and the border. Quote, when we started this, the border united us and Ukraine divided us. The politics on this have changed, McConnell then told his GOP colleagues. This is all about Trump. McConnell referred to Trump as the nominee and noted that the former president wants to run his 2024 campaign centered on immigration, and the GOP leader said, quote, we don't want to do anything to undermine him, so we are in a quandary, meaning that Donald Trump has ordered MAGA Mike Johnson to kill any border deal. When President Biden's trying to address the border, the MAGA Republicans want to create conflict, controversy at the border so they could whine and complain about it. And here's the post where Donald Trump orders MAGA Mike to not take action on the border and to have the courage not to do anything on the border, where Democrats are trying to come up with a solution. And now MAGA Republicans want to both screw over Ukraine and the border to help Donald Trump. And yet they call themselves Republicans. I call that behavior traitorous and treasonous. Finally.
So that's his interpretation. So then going on to, this geopolitical side of things, McConnell then walks back doubts on the Ukraine aid deals. So then he's come out saying, actually, no, we should be able to work something out, given all that we've just heard. Other senators, as mentioned, said that his opinions have been misconstrued. Mitt Romney, and we're going to hear from him in a second, says the ambiguity that was around for the last few hours has been clarified for all of us. He's fully behind the border bill. So this is now saying McConnell, no, he is fully behind it. Because obviously it's going to be highly controversial if they then say, no, we're not behind the bill because we can't do a deal on it because of campaigning, which means that nothing's going to happen then until November, and explicitly so. They can't admit that in public. So he's fully behind the support for Ukraine and is not going to let political considerations of any campaign stand in the way of his support. So Mitt Romney is saying that of Mitch McConnell. However, Mitt Romney is broadly saying that Trump is holding it over the party. And, well, we come to Mitch McConnell. Sorry, I don't want to jump the gun. So Senator James Lankford, the Republican Party's key negotiator on the border agreement, said he hopes the deal will be ready to present in a matter of days. But as we heard, that he said that before, quote, certainly not weeks, but we're hoping it's days to try and get it out, but it's not today. Okay. So then we come to what Josh Hawley says here, and Ben Hodges says of this. I guess Senator Hawley skipped all the ethics classes at Yale and Stanford and Rockhurst Jesuit School. Everything he has ever said about the vital importance of securing America's borders was obviously insincere. Ben Hodges is very angry about this, and for good reason. This is what Josh Hawley says to Laura Ingraham on Fox News.
Senator, is this deal dead effectively?
I hope so. It should be. If it's not dead yet, it should be dead. I mean, there is absolutely no reason to agree to policies that will just further enable Joe Biden.
In other words, it's not dead because the policies are bad. It's not dead because actually that's what the Republicans had been asking for. It's not dead because it's crap. It's dead because it will give what Biden wants, which is a resolution to the border. That's what he's saying.
That will just further enable Joe Biden.
We can't give anything that enables Joe Biden. So in other words, it is more important that we screw over an aspect of our own country so that we spite Joe Biden. That is what some Republicans are saying now. It is more important that we screw over aspects of our border, of our nation, that we do the wrong thing to solve any problem we have here, so that we do the right thing in screwing over Joe Biden. It's more important that Joe Biden is seen to look bad, that good things happen in America. That is a problem. Now, Mitt Romney has come out and blasted Trump for sabotaging the border deal to blame Biden, right? So that's what's going on. This isn't just me making up this. Listen to the words. So, no.
I think the border is a very important issue for Donald Trump. And the fact that he would communicate to Republican senators and congresspeople that he doesn't want us to solve the border problem because he wants to blame Biden for it is really appalling. But the reality is that...
So it is appalling that Trump wants to do that, says Mitt Romney.
That we we have a crisis at the border. The American people are suffering as a result of what's happening at the border. And someone running for president ought to try and get the problem solved, as opposed to saying, hey, save that problem. Don't solve it. Let me take credit for solving it later.
Right, don't have a go at me. Right, these are Republicans saying that this is what is happening. You've got Republicans clearly communicating that. Josh Hawley. We've got Mitt Romney telling you how it is. Don't have a go at me, and don't blame the Democrats again, because this is moving the goalposts, and you've got Republicans admitting that that is what is taking place here. You know, as Politico says, the White House stays the course on border talks despite Trump's interference. So, you know, Biden is saying we're going to keep working at this. You know, this is a president who knows we need action and is working in good faith to make that happen. And we see no reason for politics to get in the way here, says the White House principal Deputy Press Secretary Olivia Dalton to reporters at Air Force One. And that's what you would expect them to say. Last Thursday, Trump released a statement saying the nation is better off not making a deal unless it's perfect. And he called for the current Senate effort meaningless. A border deal now would be another gift to the radical left Democrats. They need it politically, but don't care about our border. That's exactly what can be accused of him in that. That's literally projection there. He's saying they don't care about a deal, right? They don't care about our border. They just need it politically, obviously for Ukraine or whatever. Well, that's what you're doing. You don't care about it because you're willing to not do the deal because you'll be giving that to Biden and to keep it to November to then come in, solve the deal when you think that you sweep through the White House and get a trifecta and then sort the border out there and say, look at me, aren't I wonderful? So Ilya Ponomarenko then talks about J.D. Vance here. So J.D. Vance says, we simply have no idea. Again, there are then these perpetuated myths going on. And he's a former military man, J.D. Vance. He knows better than this, but he's playing to his base. We simply have no idea where a lot of our money to Ukraine has gone. Yes, you do. It's the most transparent amount of money to any other conflict in the history of US politics, I would wager, precisely because of these ideas being thrown around. They've had to put loads of checks and balances in place. Did you do that in Iraq? Did you do that in Afghanistan? Did you do that in all the places that the US has been involved for the last 50 years? No. It's being done now. So this is just myth. What is disinformation? The corruption is out of control. No, it's not. There's no evidence of this. One more reason to reject further aid. No, it's not. That is a lie. And that should be called out. And Ilya Ponomarenko here says the worst part of this is that all these people actually know very well that most of the US allocated funds to help Ukraine repel the biggest European war of invasion since World War II actually stays in the US. 90% of it stays in the US. So if that corruption is taking place, it's taking place in the US. As government contracts for American enterprises that provide American jobs, American salaries, and American taxes. This is, of course, includes J.D. Vance's state of Ohio, particularly the city of Lima, where American workers prepare armored vehicles for Ukraine as part of a government contract. Moreover, these people know very well that throughout almost 2 years of the full-scale war in Ukraine, neither US and European officials or NATO nor the media have established any hard facts of Ukraine misusing or smuggling foreign military aid. But hey, why not cynically hold your own voters out for fools and spit at the lives of millions of people for your own petty politics? It's disgusting. J.D. Vance's claims there are disgusting. Right, and I'm not going to sit on the fence anymore. I'm going to call this crap out because it is killing people and it is destabilizing the world, and that needs to stop. You need to be called out for lying. You just shouldn't be able to get away with that. Anyway, off that topic now. It is terribly divisive, but it shouldn't be divisive because, you know, it's all out there. The reasoning is out there, and it's not me giving that reasoning. It is those politicians giving that reasoning. Right, Slovakia, mass demonstrations against the new pro-Russian government there, as you can see here. They've been ongoing for a week and keep growing, getting bigger. So Robert Fitzo's recent reversal of rhetoric and decisions might be taking that into account. Oops, I didn't need that one. I should have had that earlier. Right, Lithuanian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Gabrielius Landsbergis, has arrived in Kiev for a visit. So the Baltic nations still keeping such close support going for Ukraine. And Deputy Prime Minister says that Kiev, the Ukrainian Deputy Prime Minister, Kiev is working on Orban's visit to Ukraine. So Ukraine is working to organize an official visit of the Hungarian Prime Minister. This would be absolutely fantastic. For the first time in 14 years, Deputy Prime Minister Ola Stefanishnya has confirmed to Reuters yesterday. There you go. That's geopolitically what's going on. And we had to focus on the US again because that $64 billion, however much it is, different numbers, dollar package to Ukraine is the most vital component of aid to Ukraine. And it is being held up, and there are political games taking place, and we need to understand what's going on and call it out for what it is. I will have people attacking me again. I want to have people, claiming this is all Biden's fault. It is all the Democrats' fault without at all looking at, and it's not like I'm saying it's all the Republicans' fault without saying, Biden's not at fault. Like there's been a slowness on Biden's front. There's been a reticence to do the right thing at the right time because of worries of escalation. I will hold Biden to account for a number of these things and Jake Sullivan and the administration. But I will also say, look, here, this is very clearly a political gaming taking place by those who are looking more at the campaign going towards November 2024 than they are in terms of doing the right thing for the right people at the right time. Thank you.